Ladies and gremlins, how are we doing on this fine sunny afternoon? And as you can see, we have a delicious, actually if I just showed you this from the top here, you could very, very easily be forgiven for thinking that this was a Les Paul standard with the binding and the mother of pearl and all that kind of thing. However, of course, there's only these in this colour. There's only these in this colour, nothing else. So we're going to have a look at this, listen to it within a musical setting, go through the pickups, and then I'll tell you what I can about it. And there is a little bit of a warning at the end for you if you're looking for any Gibson at all. So even if you found the other stuff, don't wind through to the end and have a listen. It's probably worth it if you're in the market. Okay, let's go. Okay, so moving on to the pickups, and one other little thing as well. Or shall I go into that in greater detail? No, I'll go into that in a little bit. So, okay, I'm glad that we've decided that amongst us. We'll start with the bridge end, and we'll have a listen to the usual kind of thing. Into the centre. $490R, $498T. It's your standard kind of fare. So no real surprises as far as tonality goes, because it's the same construction and same pickups and whatnot. Let's have a little look. So, party piece time. pull the knob, it's just like a regular push-pull, and then strum the strings gently, and whatever it... There we go. And that, on green tells us that it's in tune, so that works. I have not explored any further than regular 440 tuning because I don't read, and manuals, and I would only look at it for the things that I would find it useful for. I'll push my knob back in. And so, yes, anyway, there you go. 2007 robotics, all working nicely. Jolly good. Moving on. Okay, so the first thing that I want to tell you about is, before I unplug it and we have a proper look round it, is that unlike the G-Force tuners, which look, as you know, significantly different than these original Tronicals, what these do is, if you're a bit out, and I did notice that the B was just ever so slightly flat, so if your Tronical system either maybe the battery's packed in, or you just don't like it, what you can do is you can pull out your shaft and use it as a regular tune. And there's nothing wrong with these as tuners, they're absolutely fine. So people who go, and then it's just a little wiggle to make sure it's, you know, properly in line with all the other little gears inside, and then push it back in and that's it sealed. So I can understand why people do unrobot them, but I wouldn't bother. If I didn't like the E-tune thing, I'd just pull the pegs out and use them as standard tuning keys. So was that it? Yeah, that's it. Right. Okay. Now let's have a good look round, and I've got plenty to tell you about this. Okay. Okay. So before we have a look at the guitar, I really think it's worth looking at the case. The case in itself is a work of art. I think it's a TKL. We'll have a look in a moment. And of course, it's in silver, silver Tolex with this really, really nice design. Of course, you've got Gibson USA and Robot Guitar limited edition first production run. And I do have something to say about that as well. And inside you have silver. Great, silver fur, come on. And you should also get with it a certificate of authenticity, which has got, you know, it kind of looks like a 1950s factory photo on that, doesn't it? So all of the guitars were numbered sequentially from 1 to... Now, here's the thing. I have read 4,000. Whether that's all of them, including the second editions, I don't know. But certainly when these were first launched, which was December the 7th, 2007, only the most precious, well, precious to Gibson, which means high volume sales dealers, were given only 10 of these. Now, let's have a bit of a gripe. So, Robot Guitar limited edition first run only came in this blue silver burst, and Gibson said that it was a colour that they'd never used before and that they promised that they would never use again. And to be fair to them, I haven't seen another one in this finish apart from these first edition Robot guitars. And so scarcity value, check. what else can we tell you? Okay, so underneath the bridge, what you have is little piezos inside here, and there's the communication between the computer brain inside here and the Tronical tuners here at the back. They're a bit ugly, those, aren't they? But never mind, you can't see them when it's this way around. So yes, it's the strings that talk from the computer to the tuners. So any information is transmitted along this route here. Now, the blurb says it's a studio, but it's a kind of studio standard, isn't it? Because the studios have only got silkscreen on the top, whereas this has got proper mother of pearl. It's got the mother of pearl Gibson logo, and it's got the mother of pearl flower pot or crown or whatever it is. And it's also got, as you can clearly see, binding around the headstock, binding around the neck, and even that, some people like it, others like me don't, nib end binding. But that is just like a standard. Of course, there's no binding on the body, which sort of makes it a studio body with a standard neck. It's an all mahogany construction. It's a mahogany body, mahogany set neck, and of course you've got the maple cap. Now, another thing with these nitro metallic finishes is that you will often see, not always, but probably more often than not, some kind of striation in the paintwork. This paintwork, by the way, is unmarked. However, can you see in certain lights there's a little bit of a couple of little vertical lines here that I believe have something to do with the magnetic flakes in the paint getting pulled toward something or another, and it happens. Most of the metallic finishes you'll see, certainly from this era, you will see that little striation. It's not a damage, it's just a paint finish thing, and it happens to an awful lot of them. So yes, individual piezos under the saddles which talk to the computer, and then the computer comes up through here and talks to the strings, and the strings are encapsulated. I'm being very careful here. If you can see inside the stoptail here, you'll see these white circles, and they're actually ceramic guards to prevent any of the string signals talking to each other. So it keeps them perfectly isolated. And if you were going to unrobot it, I mean, people go to a lot of trouble, and I don't know why. All you really need to do is disconnect the battery, take off these bad boys here, and replace them with, either, what do you want to replace them with? Clusons or Grovers, or you could even use those, is it Steinberger, something like that, because they will fit into the hole without, and they fix without having to drill anything. So you can leave the back of the headstock intact with that particular brand of tuning machine, you see. So there is an answer. And you can see from the controls here that we've got this master control knob which sticks out like a sore thumb. But the master control knob is only a master control knob when it's pulled out, and then you can select your various tunings and whatnot. When it's pushed back in, it's just a regular tone knob. So all you'd have to do really is get a matching knob cap and replace it with that. Remove the battery, stick your regular tuners in, and hey ho, you've just got a studio standard Les Paul in a really nice colour. Other than that, they have an ebony fretboard, proper mother of pearl block trapezoid inlays, and the back, of course, is black. This This hasn't had any mileage. And also, these have an intrinsic value, strictly speaking, because the frets are made from nickel silver, proper nickel silver, about 80% nickel and 20% actual silver. So that's rather nice. And you know, normal sort of 3-position toggle switch, so they can be unroboted, but why bother? Why bother when you can just pull these out and just use it like a regular tuning machine? Now, gripe time. So, a very well-known UK guitar retailer that deals in high-end instruments advertised a green one as a first edition. Well, green ones aren't, basically. It's 2008. The first editions were all 2007, and they were all in this colour. I don't think there were so many of them. What one was this? This is... So this was the 682th in the production run, and as I say, how many of these in this colour they made, I don't know, but I think that the total production run of the robots was 4,000. These, not so sure. 1,000 maybe? 1,500? I don't know. And they were very expensive when they were new. They were, I think they're about 2,100 quid or something like that. And anyway, yes, so it's just like playing a Les Paul. That's because it's a Les Paul. And so, thumbs up from me. And just when you... Here's the thing. Gibson have got such a random range of different instruments that kind of look the same. Recently, on that well-known auction site, I have seen an ES339 advertised as a 335. They are obviously nothing like each other at all, but it's doing rather well at the moment. That is probably just, you know, somebody who's not very clued up, but how can you be spending, I don't know, 12 to 1,500 quid on a guitar and actually not know what it's called? And like I say, that other guitar retailer was selling a green one as these as a first edition, which it most certainly was not. Another thing about these, changing the strings, really easy. It's got a string up, string down function, and you just basically press the button and it slackens the tension on all of the strings, and you only need the pressure of your thumb to undo these little locking stops here. Do not use a tool, is my advice. And you just wrap the string round. There's a little capstan with 2 slots in it. You just wrap the string round and round the 2 little slots and do the string up thing, and off you go. It really is very, very easy. I would also imagine that with all of these saddles being individually piezoed, I would also imagine that if you leave strings on for too long, that they'll stop talking, or if you leave it unplayed for too long, for that matter, that the strings run a risk of not talking to the computer or not talking to the tuning machines at the headstock there. I don't know for sure. This one works as far as I can tell. I haven't tried alternative tunings because that's not my kind of thing. Okay, so yeah, yes, the other thing I saw, in fact I think it's still on now, was an LPJ advertised as a studio. Well, you can buy these, can't you? You can buy these for buttons. You can buy them for a couple of quid, and you can make them say whatever you want. But it doesn't necessarily mean that that's what it is. And yes, so there's somebody selling a Les Paul Junior, which for all the world looks like any Les Paul Studio, except for, of course, it's got a maple neck and it's not to studio spec. The pickups are probably the same, but it's so just be careful when you're looking. Just because it says something up here don't take it just as read. Do a little bit of research or send me a photo and ask me. I'm quite happy to help. And I think that we have absolutely done. Oh yes, so you also get a nice blue Gibson strap with it, which I think is rather cool. You get all the charging gubbins and a book that I haven't read that tells you about how to use the Tronical system. But as I say, very, very easy to unrobot. You can bung those Steinberger tuning machines in there if you had a mind to, because these come off just by undoing these nuts here. So that's it for let me tell you, these are becoming collectible, and I've watched these go up and up and up in price over the last few years, and there's very, very little information out there as well about them. So anyway, that's it. I've waffled on way too long. Thanks ever so much for watching, and I'll see you soon with an incredibly bizarre Gibson that I've got coming up. Probably the weirdest one they ever made. All right, adios amigos. Ta-ra.